Hello! Welcome to my YouTube series where I review books that I've been randomly selecting from my Harlequin book bookshelf. However, in this video, we kind of did something a little bit different. I actually picked this book by hand, and I had the hopes that it would be a pretty good book because the last one I read was kind of a stinker, and I was trying to get something that I was going to enjoy. Um, that was not exactly the case this time around. You know what? Let's just get into it. We'll just get into it. The book that I picked this month is called Zombie Moon by Lori Devoti. It was published in 2010, and Lori has actually written 11 books for the Harlequin Nocturne series, which is kind of their line of like paranormal romances, so your werewolves and vampires and stuff like that. Lori also publishes under another pen name called Ray Davies, where it looks like she writes cozy mysteries. She's a New York Times bestseller and is actually still active. I actually found an ad for a writing class that they were hosting as recently as April 2024. Caleb Locke lived for one thing, killing zombies. And this man, this legend, was exactly what Samantha Wagner needed. In mist-shrouded alleys haunted by zombies, haunted by fear, she vowed to find Caleb and convince him to help her, but she hadn't counted on falling in love. Caleb kept his own secrets, like the one he couldn't hide when the moon was full, but his wolf was drawn to Samantha, recognizing her as his mate. With her in his arms, Caleb reveled in passion and rued his deception. Would she still love the man who fought by her side if she realized that zombies weren't the only monsters? Samantha would have to make a choice, and she only had until the next full moon. So the book opens on the main male character named Caleb. I'm gonna preface this by saying, I just want to preface this by saying that I wrote out this script while I was reading the book. So there's going to be comments and stuff in here that like I think this is happening, I think that's going to happen. That's what I was writing down while I was actively reading the book. So these are my thoughts in the moment. So I'm going to have like my own little input here and we'll kind of discover it with me as I go. The book opens on the male main character Caleb searching for something. He mentions that he has a heightened sense of smell from being a werewolf, so it's kind of like right out there from the beginning, Caleb's a werewolf. Caleb is standing in an alley hunting for something. There are bodies, and the brains have been eaten out of these bodies that are just laying in the alley. Caleb pulls out a thermos containing human brains, he's just carrying a thermos of human brains on him, and he uses it like a lure to get the zombies to come out of wherever they are to come to him. He takes the brains just in his bare hand, puts them in a cardboard box in the middle of the alley, and then just jumps into a dumpster to wait for them to show up. The POV then will shift to the main female character, Samantha Wagner. Sam is a Southern belle from Tennessee who is currently in Wisconsin in the middle of November, so she's freezing her ass off. She is searching for a man called Caleb because of some things that she's seen on the internet about like zombie attacks and stuff like that. It doesn't really mention why just yet. Sam mentions, however, in her narrative that she has a gun and that she's a bullseye shot. She's super accurate. But also that she left that life behind her, which leads me to believe that she's like a hunter or something. However, she spots a zombie and is surprised to find that they're real. So the hunter idea immediately went out the window. I don't think this is a full-blown zombie outbreak situation. It must just be like some sort of hidden monster society thing going on. So as you can see, these are my thoughts while I'm reading this book, and now I'm reading them out loud to you, even though now presently, I have the knowledge of what all this actually is. You can experience this as I'm experiencing this, if I read it this way. A smallish horde of zombies show up, and they fall for Caleb's trap, like his little brainy cardboard box trap. But Sam, who is right there, interrupts the zombies and shoots them with her pistol. She shoots the zombies in the heart, like just one shot through the heart. But it's a zombie, so it doesn't work. And the zombies turn around and look at her, and she just keeps shooting them. She shoots them between the eyes, that doesn't work. And they're getting closer, and she's hitting all her shots, but none of them are working. And Caleb just like jumps out of the dumpster where he was hiding and watching this happen, and he starts opening fire with a shotgun, and he takes out all the zombies, no problem. Sam, like, just turns around and starts puking because of all the gore, and she drops her gun on the ground, and Caleb snatches it up, and more zombies start showing up. Like, they've been drawn in by the scent of blood and the sound of gunshots and stuff like that. 4 more zombies enter, and Caleb pulls out his own revolver and explains that zombies won't die unless they've been shot through the brainstem. It has to be specifically through the brainstem. Sam goes, "Let me shoot them." Like, she's apparently she's okay now, and she's trying to shoot her guns again. And Caleb lines up his shot. He misses, then hands Sam her gun back, and then he grabs his shotgun again. And then he runs out from behind a dumpster. I don't know. He's just I don't know. He missed his shot, so he gave her gun back, and then he grabbed his gun and went back to go shoot them with a shotgun, because, you know, that won't miss so easy. Caleb takes out 2 zombies and stops a third one that's charging at Sam. Like, he reaches out to grab it. And while that zombie is distracted, Sam shoots it right through the brainstem. Like, just perfect shot through the brainstem, 1 shot. And it just collapses. And more zombies show up to the brawl. Sam yells for Caleb to get down before she starts firing more shots, and she takes out another zombie. Again, just like perfect shot. And Caleb is being all pissy because she interrupted his hunt, because he was hunting these zombies. These were his targets. And he says, "No, you get down." And they have like a back and forth, like little "you get down, no, you get down" kind of thing going on. And then he shoots a zombie head off with his shotgun. Caleb takes his gun back because apparently that was the gun he gave Sam. He gave her his gun and then let her shoot that one. I guess maybe hers was I don't know why he didn't just give her hers back, honestly. He could have just done that. But now she's got just her gun, doesn't have Sam's gun. 1 more zombie shows up after Caleb like storms out of the alley. He's pissed because she stole his hunt. 1 more zombie shows up, and rather than like, you know, leave, run around, flee, or anything, Sam, who's still standing there, just shoots the zombie between the eyes. Even though they have repeatedly stated in like this is like maybe 5 pages into the book, they have said 4 or 5 times that you have to shoot a zombie through the brainstem. Sam shoots the zombie between the eyes. Like, it's a perfect shot. Like, sure, it's a perfect shot, but she just ignored all of the information that has been given to her over and over again in the last like few minutes. And that was also her last bullet, by the way. She wasted her last bullet shooting the zombie between the eyes. Caleb comes sprinting back into the alley when he smells the zombie because he has werewolf senses. And he takes out his revolver and slides it across the ground at Sam. She snags it and then fires it and then misses her shot, misses the brainstem of the zombie, and the zombie's pissed. So the zombie turns around and like backhands her because I guess like Caleb got its attention or something, so it had turned around, and then Sam shot at it, missed, and then the zombie like flung back around and like backhanded her. And then she falls backwards and smacks her head on the ground, and she's just out cold. Now that Sam is unconscious, Caleb turns into a giant wolf and starts attacking the zombie. He kills it, and then he's about to run away, like, and just leave Sam on the ground there. But he's kind of obsessed with her for some reason. And he hears a siren approaching. He sees that she's bleeding. And then he shifts back into his human form, buck-ass naked, grabs her, throws her over his shoulder, and then runs off with her. Just carries her away. Sam awakens in a cheap motel room in nothing but her underwear. She can hear someone in the bathroom. Sam arms herself with a heavy lamp off the bedside table, preparing to smash whoever might be in there over the head. The bathroom door eventually opens, and surprise, it's Caleb. Unsurprisingly, he is also naked as hell. He dodges the blow from the lamp and tackles Sam, unaware that it's her, and then they both hit the bed. He figures it out real fast, though, and he does that thing where, like, grabs both of her wrists in his one hand, because he has big hands, and then he kisses her, because apparently they're just getting right into it. She kisses him back, and then she, like, puts her hand on his chest to stop him, and Caleb gets off immediately. So, you know, at least he respects boundaries, I guess. Caleb asks who she is, and she doesn't answer. Instead, Sam says, "Caleb Locke, I've been looking for you." Caleb points out that she wasn't scared of the zombies in the alley, which is strange because most humans don't know that monsters exist, which means Sam must have some kind of experience with that. And Sam doesn't answer right away. Instead, she asks for her clothes back because she's not used to having business discussions in her underwear. Caleb grabs her clothes, and then he puts some of his own pants on, finally. He asks Sam, again, like he repeats the question, asking her why she's here. And Sam finally tells her name is Samantha Wagner, and she wasn't surprised to see zombies because her best friend Allison has apparently been kidnapped by zombies. Caleb says he can't help, and he tells her to leave, and Sam obviously refuses to go anywhere because she needs his help. She starts to tell him about her friend instead, her friend Allison. And Allison got a job at some super secret lab with the NDAs and everything, and she simply said that her work involved life and death. Obviously, that kind of thing gets Caleb's attention because he's trying to find the source of the zombies that have been springing up all over Wisconsin. Sam says that Allison took a job in Texas, however. It's not here in Wisconsin. Allison didn't really give Sam any sort of address to check when she transferred to her new job, and one day just like all their contact ceased. They never heard from her again. Caleb says maybe Allison's family knows where she is, and Sam says that Allison was actually a foster kid, she didn't have any family. Caleb suggests that maybe Sam thought that they were closer than they really were, so Sam finally gives Caleb a link written down on a piece of paper, and he enters the URL into his computer. The video opened on a close-up of Allison's face. The jostling picture made it apparent Samantha's friend had set up the recording. After a few seconds, there was a noise behind her. She stepped back, turned, and said something about looking for a file she couldn't find. You could, however, from his silhouette, tell that he was wearing a lab coat. Have you tried to contact your friend? He said. Allison's hand, held at her side, moved, making a signal only she and Samantha understood. It was their distress signal. They devised the simple tapping of a thumb and 2 fingers together when Allison had lived at her last foster home so Samantha would know if Allison was in trouble, even when she didn't feel like she could say the words. Seeing it now, Samantha's stomach clenched. She curled her fingers into her palms, stopping herself from reaching for the screen. The video was old, had happened a month ago at least. In the video, Allison replied. She knew that, but she had to remind herself every time. I wouldn't do that. You told me to stop. I did. The man moved closer. One arm was behind his back. I'd hoped you respect the need for secrecy. I do. Allison's hand moved again, faster. What are you doing? He asked. Are you hiding something? Me? No. Allison held out her empty hands. He angled his head, seeming to be studying her. It's just, Miss Granville, she seemed okay yesterday, Allison said. And she's okay today. Didn't you see her? He asked. I did, a few hours ago. She looked like the others. And how, Allison, is that? His voice was laden with warning. He shoved his visible hand into his coat pocket. Not well. The patients who come here, they're very sick. You know that. If we didn't take them in, offer them our treatment, they'd be dead. We give them an alternative, one they agree to in writing. But her vital signs, her voice quavered at the end. Allison paused. Samantha recognized the tone, knew that her friend was afraid. Impotent rage surged inside her just like it did each time she saw the recording. She glanced at Caleb. He sat quietly watching the video with no expression visible on his face or in his posture. Vital signs? What are they? Just some human-created symbol of life. The man stepped closer. It was here, in this split second, where Samantha, on every single viewing, thought he would move just an inch to the side, just enough so she could make out his face. As always, she tensed in anticipation, and as always, he didn't. He stayed cast in shadows. Miss Granville is walking, isn't she? Eating? Talking? Isn't that life? She isn't breathing. He shrugged. What does it matter? Humans need oxygen. The words were low, like Allison was saying them to herself, reassuring herself of their truth. Miss Granville doesn't. You should be celebrating that fact, not worrying over it. He sighed. You watched her eat breakfast. She had a good appetite, didn't she? That fits into your standard definition of a sign of good health, doesn't it? Yes. Allison reached for something on a table beside her, a clipboard. She shuffled through the papers attached to it, her posture stiff and her movements harried. Her hands were shaking. Samantha couldn't see it in the video, but she knew her friend, and knew they were. Apparently, finding the recording she'd been searching for, Allison looked up. Her finger pressed against the paper clip to the board. She asked, But did you see what she ate? Miss Granville doesn't stop eating, and Marie's cat, she left it with Miss Granville after breakfast. She thought it would soothe her, and now it's missing. Are you accusing Miss Granville of eating Marie's cat? The man chuckled. Come on now, she's an 80-year-old librarian who served on the local animal shelter's board for 22 years. She's hardly the cat-eating type. He laughed again. But Allison didn't seem ruffled by his scoffs. She attacked Jack. The man in the video made a huffing noise. It was obvious now that he was losing patience. She's been through a lot, as you have pointed out ad nauseum. She flatlined. When she came back, when they all come back, they are confused. Allison moved the clipboard so it wasn't visible to the camera. By the way she was standing, Samantha could tell she was holding it over her chest like a shield. Where's Jack? I haven't seen him all day. The man leaned back on his heels. He's recovering. Another side effect of the treatment. A good one. People come back stronger than they've ever been, even at their healthiest. Miss Granville did a little damage to him. Completely unintentional, of course. What about looking for the others who escaped? Allison bit off the word. Who disappeared? Jack was doing that. He was worried they might be. The doctor moved closer. Allison let her words fade. We have never lost a patient. If Jack said we had, he was wrong. Allison was quiet for a moment and then murmured, I'd like to see him. Would you? A tiny depiction of the room on Caleb's monitor screen went silent again. Samantha had to fight the need to scream into the laptop, to tell Allison to shut up, to tell the man whatever he wanted to hear just to get the hell out of the room. Maybe that's a good idea after all. The man turned and he stepped out the door. When he was gone, Allison stared back at the camera. It looked as if she was going to whisper something, but then the door opened and another man shuffled into the room. She turned to face him. He was dressed in scrubs, green ones that accentuated the gray cast of his skin. He was wearing a collar, the kind that dogs wear when their owners have invested in underground fencing. The man Allison had spoken with before waited for the new man to enter, and then stepped back into the room. The first man held a square electronic device. Jack was getting treatment. You don't mind being a part of it, do you, Allison? He twisted a knob. The man called Jack bent at the waist and touched his toes. Another twist of the knob, and he stood. Jack, tell Allison how you're doing, the first man ordered. Jack turned and stared at Allison. In the background, the first man lifted the box to the lips and whispered something into it. Allison took a step back, but there was nowhere to go and no time. Jack, his hands held out in front of him, charged towards her. Allison screamed and darted to the side, but Jack leapt into her path. Allison moved to the side, but the man did too. They lunged back and forth like two kids playing a game of keep-away on a couch. Then Jack surged forward, too fast for any human. The camera seemed to zero in on him, his gray face, on the uncontrolled hunger in his eyes. It was that glimpse that first put the word zombie into Samantha's mind. With a crash, the screen went black. Caleb says it's probably just a prank because the video was sent in October, and October is a good time for scary pranks. Sam has another shorter video to show him. In this 3-second video, 3 grain-skinned men are eating brains on a tray. One zombie tries to steal the other's brains off of his tray. They get into a brawl. One zombie beats the ever-loving shit out of the other zombie and then eats his brains. The third just destroys the camera. When the tape is over, Caleb says that these 2 videos aren't connected at all. Sam tells Caleb that she knows the first video was real because during the video, Allison was making a hand sign that indicated she was in distress, something that the 2 of them had come up with in their past. Caleb asks how she found him, and after a bit of back and forth, Sam tells him that his name came up on a zombie hunting blog. She knew he was legit because he wasn't one of the ones on the website posting all these like larger than life stories and all the gory details and just being like zombie hunter posers. Sam contacted a blogger who mentioned knowing Caleb and convinced him to give him his number, and then Sam came to Wisconsin to track him down. Sam asks if he's gonna help her, and Caleb is about to say no, but he can't bring himself to do it, and then it just hard cuts to the next chapter where they're walking through the motel parking lot together, Sam hot on his heels. He's clearly agreed to help her. Sam thinks that Allison's job was in or around Waco, Texas, and that Allison had basically been hired one day and was forced to leave like 3 days later to live in a room and board provided by the lab where she was hired. So there was really no in between. She got hired and then she was forced to go. As they're driving together to Waco, Sam tells Caleb that she had a bag of things that she brought with her to Wisconsin, but that it was all stolen, so all she has is money and a gun. Caleb gives her a stiletto knife that he was keeping in the glove box, and a PDA telling her to look up the attack reports at Waco to see if they can start searching for zombie attacks. They stop at a truck stop to go over the sightings that Sam took note of while they were driving, and as they enter, some old truckers are just like leering at Sam, like 'cause she's, you know, a hot 20 something wearing yoga pants. All these old truckers are just like leering at her. And obviously, Caleb does the alpha male thing and wraps his arm around her and gets all protective and glary about it. So they sit down together, and she stops to go to the bathroom first. And like a few minutes later, one of the truckers actually comes up to Caleb and tells him that the girl he came in with just left without him. And Caleb looks out the window and he sees a black tinted van with windows starting to drive away. Caleb automatically assumes that Sam got kidnapped by the van with the black windows. Like he has no he has no reason, I think, to believe this, but he sees the van with the black tinted windows and he just automatically assumes the worst. He throws his laptop to the trucker who came to warn him that Sam left, and then tells him that if anything happens to the laptop, he'll come back and kill the trucker. Then he rushes out the door and tries to find out what the hell's going on with Sam. Caleb runs he runs right at the black van, and so he runs right at the black van, and he runs past a guy who's carrying out like a 2-4 beer, and he grabs it out of his hand and just whips it through the van window, like just straight up chucks it through. Glass shatters and everything. And then he grabs the door and rips the door open in the van, and inside he just finds like an old man and a woman. Like the old man is wearing like one of those fisherman hat, like the bucket hat with like the hooks through it and shit. And then he's just got like an old lady next to him, like his wife or something. And there's no sign of Sam. And then Caleb just kind of like shrugs it off. He's like, "Whoops, sorry," and then just like turns around. That's it. He just smashed their window, scared the shit out of some old people, and he's like, "Yeah, sorry." And then as he turns around, he hears Sam scream around from somewhere around the back of the building. And as he's gonna head that way, another car pulls into the parking lot, but this time it's like driving right at him and it's speeding up. So this car is trying to hit him. What? So what Caleb does is he runs at the car, he jumps up on the hood and then runs over the top of the car, and without breaking stride, like he just ran across this car, dismounted, and then kept running around the back of the gas station. And when he gets back there, he sees that Sam is being attacked by a zombie wearing the same kind of collar that they had seen in the videos that Allison had sent. The zombie has been mind controlled, or has been like, it's been given some kind of imprint to attack Sam because it doesn't really care about anybody else. It just wants Sam. Caleb is unable to distract it from its target, but he does wrestle the zombie down, and then Sam stabs it in the back of the neck while Caleb is holding it. Caleb disposes of the zombie that Sam killed by throwing it in the dumpster, and Sam is like completely shaken by the fact that she had to kill a zombie, which is kind of disappointing because I'd hoped she would be like a cool, badass, like zombie killing heroine. But she kind of immediately fell into that I have to be protected by the stronger hero trope, which is like a bummer. Also, like what happened in the very opening of this book, Sam was like so ready to kill zombies. Like she was shooting them between the eyes. She was like ready to fight them. She was jumping into battle. And then now she's like, I had to kill a zombie. I'm so upset. But she chose this. Like she was shooting zombies no problem earlier. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It's just a bummer that like the second that Caleb showed up, she immediately just became the damsel in distress that needs to be saved. There was a second zombie that apparently showed up at the diner, but it wandered out into the streets and just like stepped out in front of a semi-truck and was just splattered across the road. So they got out with like, everybody was so distracted by the fact that the zombie got like smeared across the road that Caleb like basically got off scot-free, even though he smashed the van of some innocent guys and like practically assaulted the bus driver, and they literally stabbed a zombie behind the diner. Like nobody else noticed, nobody cared. They turn around and they just kind of walk back into the diner, but they stop like just outside the door for a brief second and embrace, and they like have a moment where they almost kiss for some reason. I don't really know. It doesn't, the pacing in this is kind of weird. Before they get interrupted though, like they're about to kiss and they get interrupted. But also like in the moment, the book is repeatedly mentioning just how awful everything smells because the zombie like that got smeared across the road smelled really bad. So everything in the area just reeks, and they're about to kiss anyway. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Not very romantic, but I mean, It is what it is. They don't kiss, however, and Caleb goes back into the diner to get his laptop back from the biker guy, and then they just leave. 10 miles down the road, Caleb asks her what happened, and Sam explains that she had been in the bathroom when the zombie apparently just started beating on the door. Somehow, when she opened it, the zombie didn't grab her, it lunged at her through the doorway, and Sam was able to escape by crawling out between its legs and then running out of the building. So the zombie chased her out and just didn't bother with anybody else. Caleb asks why she didn't just bother running to him for help, and in Sam's narration, she considers that she didn't think Caleb would have held back from accidentally almost killing innocent bystanders. I didn't know why that was an option, but okay. Like, I mean, Caleb is... Like, there's no reason to assume that Caleb would kill the zombie and then also kill everybody in the vicinity. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's a really weird thing to assume, but alright. Caleb is not at all offended when Sam says that she wasn't sure if he could trust him not to hurt her and everyone else around them when the zombie shows up. They stop to get burgers, because Sam hasn't eaten. She gets a salad, and he gets, like, I think he said he ordered, like, 8 burgers or something. While they're eating, Sam turns to Caleb and goes, "Those burgers are factory farmed, you know," and is about to give him a lecture on the origins of burger meat. He pointed out that he literally kills zombies for a living. He does not care about the cows. He just wants to eat his burgers in peace. "That meat is factory farmed, you know," she said. He paused, expecting her to say more, like why the hell he cared, but she only stared at him expectantly. Turning back to his computer screen, he chomped into the meat and chewed slowly. He felt her shudder. He took another bite. "Have you seen the conditions?" He set the burger down. "Have you seen what I do?" Had she seen what the zombies did? After living with that for 20 years, no amount of animal misfortune could move him, and it certainly couldn't stop him from enjoying his favorite burger. At least, he didn't think it could, but Samantha apparently had different opinions. She began a 20-minute lecture on the life cycle of factory-farmed cows. On and on she droned until she couldn't stand to hear another word. At least, he didn't think it could, but Samantha apparently had a different opinion. She began a 20-minute lecture on the entire life cycle of a factory-farmed cow. On and on she droned until he couldn't stand to hear another word. "Enough," he said, tossing a grease-stained napkin on the floor. "I bought 8 burgers, I'm gonna eat 8 burgers, and then tomorrow I will buy 8 more. I don't care about the fate of some cow, and I don't care about the fate of anyone or anything as long as every day I survive and the number of zombies don't." He stared at her. "If you can't live with that, you need to find another ride." Her fork hovered halfway between her mouth and the plastic plate. Slowly, she placed it onto her half-eaten salad and slid what remained of the meal onto the floor. She then opened the passenger door and got out. Caleb closed his eyes and cursed, loudly. The burger slipped from his fingers and fell onto his pants. The sandwich fell open, its contents landing on his lap. Ketchup smeared his pants. With another curse, he hopped out of the car and brushed the debris onto the ground. Samantha stood with her back to him, her arms wrapped around her body. He glanced at the car, at her salad, and at his bag full of burgers. He reached inside and grabbed both. He walked to her and held out her lunch. She eyed him with suspicion, but he took the salad. He stood beside her, holding up the warm bag for a second, and then walked to the trash can and shoved it inside. Without looking at her, he stalked back to the car. "Get in. We have 14 hours to go and I still need lunch." 5 minutes later, they were on the road. So Sam literally gives him the man who saved her life, who she has begged to save the life of her friend, who is doing her nothing but a favor in exchange for nothing, a 20-minute lecture on eating burgers. He says he's not about to stop, so she puts her salad on the floor of the vehicle and gets out. Caleb has to dump his fucking burgers in the garbage, and then Sam will finally get back in the car. This was a turning point. This was the moment. This is the moment where I immediately cannot stand this heroine. This is so pretentious. This is the worst. This preachy vegan thing. It made no sense at all. I don't care if somebody chooses to be vegan or vegetarian or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. I have my own dietary restrictions, but I don't demand everybody else eat gluten-free because I have celiac disease. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And I just don't force the guy who's going out of his way to put his life on the line to save your friend to just throw out his burgers before you'll cooperate with him. Like, if I were Caleb, I would have just said, "Okay, get out. Like, that's it. I'm not going to help you now, you bitch." It's insufferable. And I immediately started to hate Samantha. It's just one of those small things that, like, instantly ruined a character. And it's really a shame because I was like, I was so excited for this book. I was hoping so hard that this was going to be a good book. They go to a Mexican place at the top of the next chapter, and he is not allowed to eat anything with meat or dairy. He is forced to get a bean burrito with no cheese, no sour cream. That is the only thing Sam will permit him to eat. Sam reflects that maybe it had been wrong to tell him to throw out the burgers and that Allison was the radical vegetarian between the two of them. But she's happy. Caleb decided to change himself for her, and then Sam just falls asleep in the passenger seat. She's pleased. Caleb is driving and his fucking tummy hurts because he's a werewolf who's supposed to be eating meat, but he just had to choke down some bean burritos, no dairy. And as they're driving sometime later, they come upon a jackknifed semi blocking the road, so they kind of have to detour around it. However, as they get close, two cars, like in front of them, just like crash, and then a zombie actually climbs out of the wreck of the semi truck and is like coming right for them. There was a cop there that was directing traffic who like confronts the zombie and then shoots the zombie, which does nothing. And then the zombie grabs the cop by the throat, and Caleb and Sam get out of the truck they're in. And zombies apparently can talk now, because the zombie turns to Caleb to ask where the girl is. Samantha has already gone running, and she just like shows up behind the zombie apparently. She got around it with nobody noticing. And she stabs the zombie in the back of the neck and kills it. Caleb says that they need to run now because the entire traffic jam behind them just witnessed Sam stabbing somebody in the back of the neck. However, Sam wants to make sure that there are no more zombies in the truck because somebody has to save everybody else. Like, Sam wants to save all the people who are stuck in the traffic jam who, like, don't actually require any saving. There's no other threats to them at the moment. But Sam's like, no, we need to save everybody who's here. And at this point, I am just so annoyed by the main heroine that I put the book down for the day. I needed to take a break because I was just so mad between the vegan thing, between this, like, between just being the damsel in distress. I needed to stop. So picking up on the next day when I started reading, Caleb hijacks a nearby truck. They take off, but since it's a stolen vehicle, he switches, so he needs to switch the vehicle so that the cops won't be looking for him. Considering that they, like, just got attacked and then murdered a person in front of a crowd who didn't know they were killing a zombie, the cops are going to be looking for them. He drives for a little bit, and then they pull over to the side of the road and hide the truck in some bushes. He finds a spot in the forest to leave Sam, just tells her to sit down, and then he strips all his clothes off and runs off into the woods. He turns into a wolf where she can't see him, but, like, to Sam's point of view, Caleb just said, "Watch my clothes, I'll be back," and then got naked and ran off. She didn't think to question this at all, apparently. Caleb steals a car from a care home because apparently A, there was one conveniently located nearby where they could steal a car from it, and B, because there was apparently a car parked there that was covered in dust because the owner doesn't use it. He drives it back to where he dropped Sam, and then he puts his clothes back on. Sam does not bother to ask him why he bothered to get naked before he ran into the woods, but Caleb starts grilling Sam on why she is constantly being attacked by zombies, and why that one, the one that was at the semi-truck, was literally asking about her. Sam says she doesn't know why. Caleb realizes Sam hasn't been telling him everything, and he grabs her, and they argue, and the narration, like, in Sam's narration, it literally says that she's lying to him, and Caleb, in his own narration, he knows that she's lying about something, but he doesn't know what. But he decides to let her go, and they get into a car together. 100 miles later, they stop at a motel. Caleb leaves to go pick up another new car, pick up being steal another car. Sam is left alone in the hotel room, or I guess it would be a motel room, whatever, not a big difference. And in her narration, it's revealed that she's actually working with the doctor, the evil doctor from Allison's video. He's working with her. He has given her some sort of metal tube that she will know when to use at some point, and it's just hidden in the lining of her coat. And Sam's job has been apparently to lure Caleb away from Wisconsin, because that is where the doctor is. That he was on the right track, and she's leading him away to take him to Texas. Apparently, back when they were at the semi, remember when that happened ages ago, Caleb got shot by the cop that was trying to shoot at the zombie, and Sam at no point noticed. She didn't notice when they were driving. She didn't notice when Caleb stripped his clothes off and ran off into the woods. She didn't notice while they were driving again. It wasn't until they get to the motel, and then Okay, no, wait. Reading it back now. She noticed it when they were in the car driving towards the motel, so it still took her a while to figure it out. Now they've stopped at a motel, she demands to take care of him because she's a nurse. She takes off his shirt and they both get really close and are putting their hands all over each other because of course they are. But Sam notices that Caleb's gunshot wound has just completely closed up. That's it, it's gone. She she doesn't mention this. She doesn't ask about it. She doesn't think it's weird. She's just okay. Caleb distracts her by putting his hands on her and taking her shirt off, and they're getting naked and they're gonna bone. However, there is a moment where Jake notices that that Sam is sleek and muscular like a dancer or like a female werewolf. And that seemed like some kind of like unsubtle attempt at foreshadowing or some hint that Sam is like actually maybe a werewolf or something like that. And if it turns out that she's actually a werewolf, I'm going to be really annoyed. And also in this moment, I noticed a typo. There's a typo that let me see if I can find the line. Caleb's hands were gentle on her skin, stroked her back and buttocks as if she were made of spun sugar and might dissolve under his touch. And she right. That's it. I think it was supposed to say, and she might, but it was the start of a new paragraph, and it reads, and she right. And not only is that a typo, it's also starting a new paragraph with and, which I was always taught was incorrect. Google tells me maybe it's not, but I always thought that starting like a new sentence or a new paragraph with and was not correct. The prelude to the sex scene is like 2 pages. There's a lot of like build up, but then the actual act is like maybe a couple paragraphs, and it just like skims over and skips over everything. It felt like there's another issue with the pacing. It felt like it was another pacing problem, and it just also felt like kind of awkward, I guess. Sam awakens the next morning to the buzzing of the metal item that the doctor gave her that she's had stashed in the lining of her coat. Caleb, with his superhuman werewolf hearing, apparently doesn't notice the buzzing sound, but Sam did. I'm guessing he's either pretending not to hear it because, I mean, if he can't hear this sound, like this thing vibrating in the drawer, it's gonna be stupid. Sam picks up her coat and takes it into the bathroom using an excuse like, oh, she doesn't have any other clothes, and checks the buzzer in her pocket, and it displays a phone number. Sam deactivates the buzzing, and then she has to get Caleb out of the room, so she tells him, like, she needs new clothes to wear. She can't keep wearing the same outfit. Like, all she has is her clothes and her coat. And Caleb readily goes to get her an outfit, and that's kind of like her perfect solution. Now he's out of the room, and she's gonna try to call the doctor. Caleb's point of view reveals that no, Super Sense's Wolfman couldn't hear the buzzing of the metal buzzer in her pocket that was echoing through the wooden drawer. Caleb knows that she's manipulating him somehow. Like, he doesn't know why, but he knows that he's being manipulated, and he's kind of heartbroken. But, you know, I mean, you've known her for like 2 days, dude. He lingers outside the motel room, and then he's kind of like just waiting where she can't see him. And when Sam comes out and walks off to find a phone, he just like starts tailing after her. Sam goes to a payphone at like a supermarket or something, and she calls up the doctor on the number on the buzzer. And the doctor wants Sam to lure Caleb. Like they talk for a split second. And the doctor says he wants Sam to lure Caleb somewhere so that he doesn't say why, but I assume it's so that they can capture him. They have a brief back and forth, but there's nothing interesting like that happens in this conversation aside from that. He just says like he needs her to take Caleb somewhere. Sam demands that he puts Allison on the phone, which he does. And when Allison is on the phone, it says that Allison responds with confusion, and that there are delays in her responses, like their connection isn't in sync. So, at this point, I'm already guessing that she's been turned into a zombie, and it's supposed to be some big reveal later that she's undead. The doctor says he wants Caleb so that he can study him, and the conversation ends. Instead of actually following Sam and listening in on whatever she's doing, Caleb actually pays like a little kid to follow her, and somehow, unsurprisingly, the kid manages to hear none of the details. The kid just heard that Sam talked to Allison, and Caleb at least manages to put together that Sam has betrayed him in some sense, because she's talking to Allison, which means she's probably talking to the doctor. 3 hours later, it just cuts to 3 hours later. They're still driving down the road, and neither of them have said anything. The detour where Sam is supposed to actually take Caleb is close, so she gets him to pull into a gas station so she can go to the bathroom. And she has to come up with a plan to convince Caleb, like, to take this detour to go wherever it is he's supposed to go. Her big plan is pointing to some people who seem to be like they're on drugs and telling Caleb that they're talking about zombies, and then they should go that way because those people who are on drugs said they saw zombies. And Caleb just like goes along with it. Like, he obviously knows that she's lying, but he does it anyway. And 20 minutes later, they're driving like through the woods. Caleb points out that like Sam knows the address. Sam knows where they're going. She's pointing him in the right direction, even though she just heard of the address from some druggies and she didn't put it into her GPS. So how the hell could she give him directions of where to go when she doesn't know what this place is? And then in his anger, like Caleb like throws himself on top of Samantha in the passenger seat. And for some fucking reason, all he wants to do is have sex with her. Like it's nonsense. Like, it doesn't. Why? He's mad and he's like, actually, we're gonna bone. They're literally about to bone when Caleb like puts his hand on her coat and he can feel the buzzer that's hidden on the inside lining of her coat. So he pulls it out and he sees this little metal tube and he confronts Sam on the fact that she's been betraying him this entire time. Sam was actually all on board for the sex in the car, like she was using it like a perfect distraction so that Caleb wouldn't get mad at her, but then it backfired, obviously. Sam admits that she's working with the doctor and that her plan was to lead him away from the lab where it was actually located in Wisconsin. Sam says she was looking for Allison and that the doctor was the one who sent her the videos and told her that she had to help him or he would hurt Allison. Sam does not tell Caleb the plan was for her to lead him somewhere where he got and studied. She just tells him that she was supposed to take him somewhere and that she had no idea what would happen. Caleb says, alright, well, let's go then. So she's still lying to him, by the way. She's still like half lying to him where she's like, no, I don't really know. I don't know why he wants you. I could have no idea, even though the doctor literally said he was doing it to study Caleb. But whatever. What's a couple more lies, I guess? Caleb can really only think about having sex with Allison. That's the entire drive to wherever it is that they're going. That's all he can think about. It hasn't said as much, but it started implying that she's like his mate, like it's a fated mate sort of situation. Like, you know, each werewolf has their one mate and that's their person forever type thing. Caleb, previously in the book, Caleb has mumbled something about every wolf having one, and it doesn't mention what that one is, but I think that's kind of what it's implying. But spoilers, this does not get touched on at any point in this book. This is just, it's like a half worked thread. I don't know why they bothered to include that when like it doesn't actually go anywhere. The address that they go to is actually a camp. In Caleb's narration, it is revealed that it's a were camp where the werewolves live. There's a pack living here, and the doctor is sending him to this location for some reason. Caleb's actually been here before. This camp is run by the she-wolf who turned him, named Anita. He was actually invited to stay here with her to rule the camp together, but he declined and left to go rogue. But now this woman is mad at him about it because she wouldn't stay with him, basically. They get out of the car, and they go to talk to the camp leader, Anita, who immediately starts making threats towards Sam. And then Caleb is threatening her in return because, like, Sam's not supposed to know where this camp is and stuff like that. And Caleb basically threatens Anita in return, telling her that she doesn't want him to challenge her here. Because, like, werewolf rules, if somebody beats the alpha, they become the new alpha, basically. It doesn't say as much at this point, but it's pretty easy to figure out. So basically, Caleb, if he beat Anita, he would become the leader of the camp. Caleb's narration mentions that Anita has been bitter since he left, and that she clearly hadn't sent for him because she had no idea he was coming, so it was the doctor who sent him here. But why would the doctor send for him to come here? And why would this camp suddenly have all these new high-tech upgrades and satellites and fancy things? It's really obvious that the camp leader, Anita, is actually working with the doctor in some way, and I'm guessing that this book will end with Caleb having to fight the camp leader and become the alpha of the pack. On the very next page, Caleb threatens to challenge the alpha and take her pack if she doesn't tell him what he wants to know. The buzzer in Sam's pocket starts buzzing again when they get back to the car, because he doesn't really get any information out of Anita. And this time it actually says Caleb can't hear the buzzer. Like, explicitly says that he can't hear the buzzer. And I will give it this. I will give the book 1 point for this, because apparently the buzzer was on a frequency that werewolves couldn't hear. But then again, that doesn't really make a lot of sense anyway, because, like, werewolf hearing is just human hearing, but better. And wouldn't he have been able to hear the vibrating device when it was vibrating against another surface? Like, he should have been able to hear it rattling around in the drawer, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm taking that point back. Never mind. Sam is still fucking completely clueless that Caleb is a werewolf. Like, this entire time, she's had no idea. She doesn't know the camper's a werewolf. She doesn't know Caleb's a werewolf. Like, just, she's oblivious to the whole thing. The pair of them drive to a rented cabin not too far away, and she calls the doctor, and Caleb listens in. It's revealed that, yes, he must have set the device to a frequency that wolves can't hear, and it's clear that the doctor doesn't know of Caleb's history with Anita. Caleb has doubts about Anita working with the doctor, and the doctor promises to bring Allison to Sam tomorrow on the night of the full moon. She tells him where they're staying, but gives him the abandoned cabin nearby. So, like, they have a safe place to stay, and then they'll go to the cabin to get Allison where it's, you know, where the doctor won't know where they are, kind of thing. They'll stay safely in their cabin, and then they'll meet the doctor at a third location, basically, so that they don't worry about getting caught. It's kind of what's happening. So, I wrote out what my current predictions are going to be for the final act before we get into this, because this is very clearly going into the final act. So my predictions, this is me reading this in the moment. These are my predictions. Allison has already been changed, but she probably was changed like a long time ago. She's probably been changed this entire time. Anita is working with the doctor, and she wanted Caleb sent to her in exchange for possibly giving up werewolf secrets to the doctor. Maybe the zombies are being made using a werewolf healing / immortality. She wants Caleb because she still wants him to be her mate. Caleb will have to challenge her and will end up inheriting the pack. Caleb may have to change Sam into a wolf. Maybe she gets bitten by the zombie Allison. So those are my predictions going into this final act. Alright? Alright, let's do this. In the cabin, Caleb tells Sam to stay there, and he's getting ready to leave. Sam pulls like a whole, no, don't leave me here, I don't want to be alone thing, and starts getting all flirty with him. And I hate how that she keeps getting what she wants from Caleb. Like, every time she wants something, every time she wants to distract him, she just gets like flirty and, oh, no, don't leave me. And then it works every time. They have sex, and she apparently is still clueless that he's a werewolf, despite how many signs there are that point to it. Sam pulls Caleb into a kiss and tells him to love her, and Caleb responds with, I will, and I do. So, like, I don't know, nothing else matters, none of the lying has mattered, nothing that's happened has mattered. Caleb loves her, and it's weird. They've known each other for like 2 days. 2 days! That's just, I don't know. Man, I had such high hopes for this book. They bone, and then there's a sense of like, this is it. This is all there'll ever be, and once this is over, we're gonna go our separate ways. Like, there's just like a sad kind of after effect, I guess. But once they're done, Caleb gets up to leave and tells Sam to stay right here in the cabin. Sam says no, she wants to go with him, and that he can't stop her. So Caleb burns all of her clothes so she can't go anywhere because now she's naked. Caleb goes to leave, and the motel owner is just like standing outside the door. How long has he been standing there waiting? I don't know. A dog enters because, conveniently, the man who runs the motel also races husky wolf mixes because, you know, a regular guard dog just wasn't cool enough, so they had to have a wolf mix, I guess. The dog is named Linda, and Linda is not gonna let Sam leave this room, and is not gonna let anybody else enter this room. Sam is left alone with Linda, and if she gets close to the door, Linda snaps at her. Linda is probably a shifted werewolf. The motel owner, the guy who rented the room, the cabin, also brought her a change of clothes. So at least now she has some clothes, so she's not naked with Linda. So that's, you know, something. Some time passes. The owner shows up, and he says he's gonna go take his dog for a walk, which leaves Sam alone in the cabin for a couple minutes. So, you know, she can conveniently escape, but she doesn't. Instead, she just waits for the man to come back with the dog and uses the lunch that he brought her to leave, like, a, an piece of candy trail of burger meat into the bathroom because she wants to trick the dog to go into the bathroom so she can close the door and shut the dog inside. But it turns out that the dog is, like, super duper fast and breaks out of the bathroom anyway, and then pins Sam to the ground, and they just, like, stare at each other for a little while. And then Sam, like, tells this entire story to the dog, like, the whole adventure with Caleb, everything that's happened, why she's out there, how she feels, like, her feelings for Caleb. She just tells it all to this dog, and the dog gets off of her, walks into the bathroom and sits down, and then lets Sam shut the door so she can escape. The point of view switches to Caleb. He says he left Sam sitting in the cabin with a werewolf named Linda. So yes, she's a werewolf. He's running around in the woods. He's heading right for Anita's camp. So he's not even going to the cabin that he said he was going to, where they were gonna leave, where they were gonna pick up Allison. He's heading to the camp. He's doing something else. He suspects that the doctor is after him while he's the most susceptible, while he's stuck in his wolf form during the full moon. And he's going to the werewolf camp because werewolves protect each other, basically. Point of view switches to Sam. She hitches a ride towards the cabin where she is waiting for Caleb at this abandoned cabin, who he's not coming because he's at the werewolf camp. Point of view switches back. The point of view switches back to Caleb. He discovers that Anita has basically been selling out being a werewolf. She lets people join the pack for a ton of money, and then they continue to pay into the pack, which is why they have, like, all this excess funds now. The pack is, like, rich. Or I guess Anita is rich. The rest of the pack doesn't really matter. Anita has money. That's what matters. And then the people who join, who she doesn't want to join the pack, the rejects, she's selling them to the doctor. Anita says she's not selling them. So Caleb, like, confronts her on this. And Anita says she is not selling them. She's just giving the people who she can't help another option. That other option being turned into a zombie. Caleb leaves to go find the rejects because it's the full moon, so they have their werewolf celebration happening, and the new werewolves are there, and the rejects are there, and he's trying to figure out where they took the rejects so he can save them. He tracks them down to where they're waiting away from the camp in, like, this little building, and he gets in there and he sees, like, I think it's, like, there's a lot of people in there, and he contemplates just killing everybody. Like, he walks in, he looks at this crowd, and he is contemplating killing all of them to save them from being turned into zombies. Never mind that's contemplating murdering a large group of innocent people who just want to get help and don't know any better. One of the rejects approaches him and asks if he's the doctor who's going to help them, because she only has a month left to live and this is her last chance. It's midnight. Suddenly, Caleb shifts into a wolf. Apparently, this just happens at the strike of midnight, like, regardless of if he's inside or outside. If it's midnight, he turns into a werewolf, like he's some fucking furry Cinderella. And even though he was just running around as a wolf, like, 15 minutes ago, it didn't become uncontrollable until midnight, basically. The point of view switches to Sam. She's at the abandoned cabin and Caleb isn't here. She has no weapon and searches for a knife, and she heads into the kitchen and finds one in a drawer as the cabin door opens. The point of view switches to Caleb. He's mid-shift. Gas fills the room and the humans all drop dead. Half shifted in his wolf form, he moves to eat one of the bodies. Actually, he contemplates the fact that there's an entire feast of bodies in front of him and that he wants to eat all of these people. But the corpses start to reanimate, and they start moving, and now the room is full of zombies. Point of view switches to Sam. The cabin door opens. It's Allison, who talks in a very slow manner. She's wearing perfume, even though it's completely out of character. Sam doesn't care or notice and immediately pulls Allison into a hug. Allison's so cold. She doesn't respond to the secret hand sign that Sam does. Something must be wrong, but what could it be? Allison only cares about finding Caleb, and Sam is surprised. She doesn't get it, and then suddenly, she realizes Allison is actually a zombie. Sam tells Allison she'll take her to see Caleb, and tells her to sit down. Sam turns around to go to the kitchen to grab a knife so that she can stab Allison zombie in the back of the neck and kill her to put her out of her misery. Point of view switches to Caleb. The zombies are getting up. They want to eat him. So he starts fighting with them and literally ripping their limbs off. Like, he rips one of their arms off and is just, like, swinging it around in his wolf mouth. The zombies are trying to bite him. They're also eating each other at the same time. Caleb is just like being a cool action hero, ripping out throats as a werewolf. And then Linda the werewolf shows up and she pulls on Caleb's tail to get his attention. And she barks at him, literally. That's she barks at him because they're wolves, telling him to get out. They're about to set the place on fire. He turns to leave. They being her and her husband, the motel room owner, like the guy who brought her to the cabin or whatever. He's apparently also a werewolf. So Linda and him, they're both werewolves and they're married. And so yeah, Linda barks at him, telling him to leave because they're gonna set the place on fire. Caleb turns around, and in the span of like half a fucking second where he took his eyes off of Linda, she is knocked to the floor and she's unconscious. And now Caleb gets to be like a super cool action hero werewolf again, and he goes to kill more zombies, and he's super cool and a badass, and he saves Linda's life and drags her out of the building. And I don't really know how that happened. Like, she got knocked out in a half a second. He looked away, looked back, and she was on the ground. But, you know, being the cool action hero he is, Caleb saves Linda's life, gets her out of the building, and her husband lights the building on fire. Point of view switches back to Sam again. Like, I cannot understate how awful these point of view switches are, because they are happening every three paragraphs. It'll be Sam, Caleb, Sam, Caleb, Sam. And like, it feels like just a bunch of half-finished thoughts, none of them very good. So the point of view switches back to Sam again. Sam cannot bring herself to put zombie best friend Allison out of her misery, so she goes outside and stabs the ground a couple times, and then ruins the only knife that she has for self-defense when the blade breaks and flies off into the dark. Sam just starts crying, and then she hears Allison zombie start throwing herself into the door of the cabin because Sam shut her in there, and now Sam runs off scared. Point of view switches back to Caleb again. Caleb again. Caleb is shifted back into his human form, something about the fire apparently making it easier to resist the pull of the moon, so I guess it doesn't matter if there's a big fire going? I don't know. They're just making up rules now. Caleb picks up a shotgun and goes super cool action hero again and starts blasting all the zombies that come out of the burning building. So these flaming zombies are running out of the building, and Caleb is just blasting them with a shotgun. And Linda's husband explains that Linda let Sam go, like once all the zombies have been dealt with. He tells Caleb that Linda let Sam go because she had heard her story, and her husband, this guy, describes Linda as like a bit of a romantic and had always been very women's libby, which I don't know, that didn't seem necessary, but okay. And Caleb points out that her husband is the dominant wolf, because not only are there pack alphas, but werewolf pairs have dominants and submissives, and so Linda should have listened to her husband solely because he was the more dominant one. And Linda's husband retorts that he's the more dominant one when she lets me be. I hated that. There was no need for that. I don't even know why they had to include that. That was dumb. It'll come up later. I'll talk about it later. We just gotta get through the story. We're almost done. Caleb figures out that Sam went to the cabin where she was sure Allison would be, so he turns back into a wolf and runs that way. Point of view switches to Sam. Allison is behind her, chasing her through the woods. Point of view switches to Caleb. He's running through the woods. Point of view switches to Sam. I wish I was fucking making this up. She is running through the woods. Allison zombie is chasing her. Sam trips and scrapes her knee. Allison zombie pins her to the ground. Point of view switches back to Caleb. He's running through the woods chasing Sam. And he catches up to them and rips Allison off of Sam, and he rips her arm off, and then he pins her to the ground and he rips her head off, and Sam takes off running. Point of view switches back to Sam. She's running through the woods. Sam is traumatized that her best friend zombie had gotten ripped to pieces and she couldn't kill her herself. She hears wolves howling and she thinks about wolf packs, and she still has absolutely no idea that Caleb is a wolf. She thinks that it was just a random coincidence that this very large wolf ran out of the woods from nowhere and attacked the zombie that was going to kill her. She wants to find Caleb, and hey, she stumbles upon the campground. I assume the ones where the wolves were hanging out, because it's not super specific about what campground, but I assume this is just the one campground that's nearby. She goes into the cafeteria and then just finds a spot in the cafeteria to lay down and go to sleep. Just gonna have a nappy nap right here. Point of view switches to Caleb. He finishes off Allison zombie. He decides to follow Sam. He runs off into the woods. Point of view switches to Sam. She hears laughing and she wakes up. It's dawn. She looks out the window and finds campers at the fire. All of the werewolves are hanging around. They're all naked, and Sam just assumes that Caleb and Anita are a part of a nudist colony. I don't understand why she has to be so stupid. Like, why does this... why is this still an issue? Why does she not know? She should have put it together by now. Couple minutes later, Sam watches as more wolves run into the clearing, like actual literal wolves this time, and then she watches those wolves change back into human form in front of her eyes. Now she realizes that everyone is a werewolf and she starts to panic. She also realizes that Caleb is a werewolf. Point of view switches to Caleb. He approaches the camp and asks the pack where Anita is. She's not back yet. Caleb elects to just wait for her to come back. The other wolves are hostile, but they don't do anything to stop him. Caleb reflects on how weak this pack is. He walks around like the campground, and the others don't care at all. They don't do anything to stop him, and he tracks Samantha's scent to the cafeteria. The point of view switches to Sam. Caleb calls out to her, because, Caleb went into the cafeteria and saw her trying to escape out of one of the back windows of the cafeteria. Sam, stops and stares at Caleb, and Caleb is, naked and just covered in blood, and Sam says Allison is dead, but she realizes, she knows the truth. Caleb is the one who killed Allison, so she climbs out the window and she runs away. The point of view switches back to Caleb. He wonders how she could have found out their secret. Probably, maybe, she's seen the wolves transform around the campfire. Anita shows up and starts to taunt him. Caleb attacks her. She assaults him and essentially says that the plan was for the doctor to kill him so he wasn't a threat to her anymore. Caleb basically just wraps his hand around her throat and starts strangling her. He's just strangling Anita now. And then her second in command of the pack runs in and sees him choking out their alpha. And Caleb just drops Anita on the floor. And basically what he's done is he's just beaten the alpha and he shamed her in front of her pack. And that means that it's his pack now. And Anita is basically trying to put his foot on her head. She's trying to get Caleb to just kill her, stomp her, and kill her. And Caleb's no, I don't want to do that. And he just ignores her and walks away. The pack immediately recognizes Caleb as their alpha now that he has bested Anita. And Anita's second hands Caleb a note that was meant for her. And it just reads, "I have 1, you owe me 49. Likely from the doctor. Caleb infers this means that Sam is the one, and now she owes him 49. The other zombies, basically, that he was supposed to be given last night, but Caleb, caught on fire and shot and stuff like that. So I guess there were 50 zombies in that room, and Caleb just action heroed all of them. Caleb tells the second in command to go, but not to tell anybody what he saw here, and Caleb starts trying to shake down Anita for wherever the doctor might be. She keeps insisting that Caleb should kill her and put her out of her misery, and Caleb says that he doesn't want her pack, and that basically they can come up with a plan for Anita to hand him over to the doctor. It mentions how, the only way she can get her pack back is if she kills Caleb, and now that he's usurped her, it's the only thing they can do. And the way they're gonna do that is she's gonna hand Caleb over to the doctor, and in that way, she's beaten him, she's, basically killed him, and now the pack will go back to her. They stage a fight, so Caleb comes out of the cafeteria, and Anita comes after him, and they stage a fight where she punches Caleb and knocks him out, and they make a huge show of it, and then the whole pack cheers when Anita wins, yay! And then they take Caleb to, quote-unquote, the cave. Sam awakens in a cave, her wrists and ankles bound, and a cloth in her mouth. It's real damsel hours at this point. The cave has a dozen zombies all just standing around staring at her, and the doctor comes in, and he is described as just some ordinary man. Just a dude. Anyone she could have passed in the mall and not even paid attention to. He's just a guy. The doctor commands the zombies to go outside and present themselves to the werewolves if they show up, and most of the zombies shuffle out. They're gone. Now I bet it's time for the villain monologue. The doctor waves a knife around and talks about how Caleb killed their Allison, and how his plan is to get Caleb here to either join him or kill him because he's tired of Caleb constantly killing the zombies he creates. The doctor is waving a knife around, and when he gets in close to her, she headbutts him and knocks him flat on his ass. He drops the knife, and Sam tries to throw herself down on top of it to actually kill herself. Not to free herself, not to pick it up and try to fight the doctor with it. She just tries to throw herself down on the blade so she can die. Anita interrupts them, coming into the cave saying she wants to make a deal. Sam notices that Caleb is restrained with a thin chain of silver-colored metal and then goes, "Oh wait, no, that's the kryptonite of werewolves. The silver-colored metal is silver." Like, she's so stupid. I don't understand why it needed to be like this. She could have been so cool. Anita offers Caleb in exchange for not having to owe him the other 49 patients that she lost that night, and the doctor says that obviously one single werewolf doesn't cover the amount he paid for the 50 volunteers that he lost. So Anita goes, "Alright, I'll go get your money then," and then goes to leave, and the doctor, without even hesitating, goes, "Actually, no, never mind, I want the werewolf, give me the werewolf, we have a deal." So, like, he tried to bluff, and then just didn't commit, so it really didn't matter at all. It's like it's kind of like they're trying to stretch the scene out for a little bit longer, and just, for nothing. Anita insists that she wants $10,000 on top of that, and she wants Sam too, in exchange for Caleb. And the doctor takes the deal, hands over Sam, takes Caleb, and Sam fights and screams and struggles against Anita, and she doesn't want to leave, and Caleb is just left behind in the cave. Anita tells Sam she's ruining the plan, and Sam realizes that it was a trap to get Caleb in with the doctor. Anita picks Sam up and carries her back to the camp and drops her in the dirt. Sam gets the gag out of her mouth and starts demanding to know what happened to Caleb and what the plan is now. Anita gets all angry and insists that nobody could beat her, and she's the alpha, and there was no plan, and she traded Caleb for her debt, and that's all. Nothing. No plans at all. What? No plans whatsoever. Sam says that the only reason Anita was still in charge was because Caleb never challenged her, and Anita smacks Sam. Anita's former second shows up and says that she's wrong. Caleb challenged her and he won, and that Anita clearly isn't the strongest if she turned around and gave another werewolf over to the doctor, because werewolves protect each other. Anita says that Caleb was not one of them, so it doesn't matter, and the second throws a knife towards Sam, who uses it to cut her bindings, while Anita and the second are arguing with each other. Sam picks up the knife as the second declares that Caleb is gone, so it's an open challenge for anyone to go for Alpha. When Anita asks who would challenge me, Sam declares that she would, and she lunges at Anita with the knife. Sam apparently overpowers Anita, the fucking werewolf, and cuts her with the knife, which is also conveniently a silver-bladed knife. Anita hits the ground, and Sam grabs her and asks if this means she wins. Anita and the second both bow their heads, so she is the de facto werewolf leader now, I guess? She runs off to the cave to go save Caleb. There's literally 14 pages left in this book. We're almost there, and this has felt like the longest slog of my life. Caleb is in the cave that has been converted to a lab by the doctor. The doctor is monologuing about his big plans and that he's been using Anita's blood for his vaccine that turns people into zombies. The doctor says he's been working on this for a while and it was a shame about Caleb's parents. So it mentions, like, way back in the beginning of the book that Caleb's parents were killed by zombies, and that's why he turned into a werewolf zombie hunter. It was brushed over then, it's brushed over now. The doctor takes some blood from Caleb's arm and then just leaves him laying on the exam table, and Caleb is just like, okay, this is my life now. I guess this is what I do forever. And then Samantha comes busting into the cave, and she tries to undo Caleb's chains, but they're padlocked, which means he can't get out, he's just stuck there. Caleb says that he only let himself get captured because he thought that Sam didn't love him anymore, and Sam says, "I know you're a werewolf, and I know you killed Allison, but I don't care anymore. I did, but now I don't, and I love you," and then they kiss, and then the doctor bursts into the room with a needle that's literally glowing radioactive green, and he lunges for Sam, but Caleb apparently finds his strength to now throw himself off the table and on top of Sam, so that Caleb gets injected with the zombie juice instead of her. Werewolves are immune to zombies, by the way. That's, like, been the whole thing. That's why he wanted to become a werewolf, so he could hunt zombies, because even if he gets bit, it won't matter. So now he gets a zombie juice injection, and it doesn't really do anything. Caleb apparently just lets his wolf run free now, and he transforms into a wolf, and the silver, like, for some reason, magically just doesn't affect him anymore, and he breaks free when the doctor comes back into the room with another syringe, basically. And Wolf Caleb struggles and grabs the doctor by the arm, and he, like, rips a bite out of him, and then zombies that are in the room start piling on Caleb and start trying to kill him, and then Sam picks up a scalpel and cuts her hand to get the zombies' attention, and it works. Caleb uses this time to start destroying the zombies, but, like, less than 5 seconds later, because of course it's less than 5 seconds later, Sam gets caught by the doctor, who apparently, like, had, even though he got his arm bitten by the wolf, snuck around somehow, and then got up behind her, and took the scalpel out of her hand, and is holding it, like, he's holding her by the throat, and he's threatening to cut her throat with the scalpel, and this is so dumb. The doctor is holding a scalpel to her throat, and he says that he is trying to save people and Allison had betrayed him, but still, he rewarded her with his gift. He tells Caleb that he wants to see him shift, and Caleb complies again, so that Caleb shifts back into man form. Doctor tells him to take the silver chain that no longer has any effect on Caleb for some reason and put it on. The doctor has not noticed that the silver does not burn his skin. So basically the doctor's just like, no, put that back on or I'll cut her with a scalpel, and Caleb does that. And the doctor probably just doesn't notice that he's not actually ill affected by the silver anymore. I don't know. Caleb does what the doctor says until the doctor lets his guard down, and then Caleb grabs the dropped syringe of zombie juice on the ground by his feet and stabs it into the doctor's thigh. With the doctor turning into a zombie, Caleb grabs him by the head and snaps his neck. He tells Sam to leave, and there is a truck with cash in the glove box, and Sam is upset because she thinks that Caleb is sending her away because she isn't a werewolf. But Caleb says that he doesn't want a werewolf, he wants her, and that she says she'll give him everything he wants. The end. In the epilogue, they return to the camp, and Anita has run off to Canada, and the pack now needs an alpha. Caleb has to do it, and he's reluctant. Sam says she'll stay here now. But they don't intend to stay forever. Caleb doesn't think she'll like living like a wolf, and she's studying to be a nurse, but they're here for now, and he swears to eliminate all the zombies with the help of his new pack. Actual end. Finn. So I started this book so excited. I thought the concept of this book was absolutely wild. I thought it was going to be a lot of fun, and when the book initially began with Sam with her apparently pinpoint accuracy with a gun, I thought she was going to be like a super strong heroine who would be able to hold her own against a werewolf, and they were hunting zombies together. But like, there was actually no real reason why she was such a good shot, aside from that her dad had taught her how to kill, but it also didn't explain anything about why that was the case. Like, she mentioned leaving this life behind and things like that, and it never elaborated on what that actually meant. I had assumed that she had come from a family of hunters, but that wasn't the case, so she was just like a really good shot for no reason whatsoever. Caleb had a very typical sort of background. His family was all killed by zombies, so he became a zombie hunter, and then he became a werewolf to do it because werewolves are immune to the zombie bite. They don't really go into much more detail than that, and there isn't really a whole lot to go on there. Very stereotypical hero background. The story itself felt like it could have been good. There were makings in there of like a nice road trip adventure hunting zombies, but it was dragged so far down by terrible characters, and that even like the okay plot ideas just couldn't pick it back up at all. As few and far between as they were, they did nothing to help. The story had ideas that it didn't want to commit to. Like, the book implied multiple times over that Sam was some sort of fated mate to Caleb, and Caleb just like never said anything about it to her. The actual idea was never actually mentioned out loud in the story, so it just kind of feels like it was a half-developed thread that never got touched on. Sam, as a character, took an immediate sharp nosedive, like first with her damsel in distress thing with the gas station, and then like it just plummeted to rock bottom the moment she decided to push her veganism onto Caleb, who was a complete stranger who was doing her a favor and risking his life to save her friend. Like, the man just wanted to eat some burgers, and she pitched a fit and stormed out of the car until he threw them away, and would only let him eat bean burritos with no dairy. This was never touched on again. Like, is Sam going to insist that Caleb is vegan forever? Like, doing it once, like, fucked up his tummy as it was. Like, is that her expectation forever going forward, that he's just not allowed to eat meat? Because they never mention this again. Is she going to expect the pack to keep to the same standards? Are they going to be like a vegan wolf pack? Because, like, that doesn't seem fair at all. The other thing... Oh man, I can finally get all this out. I've been sitting on this for a while. The other thing that like really bothered me, like the thing that bothers me in any sort of supernatural romance, is when a human and a supernatural creature like get together and the human stays human and the supernatural creature is implied to be immortal or have some sort of prolonged lifespan. Like, the book doesn't say whether or not for certain that werewolves are immortal or have super long lifespans, but it does mention that Anita is selling the curse as a stay hot, stay young sort of thing. And Caleb mentions that Anita looks like she has not aged in the last 20 years since he's seen her, so maybe they're immortal. It's unclear. If that's the case, Caleb will stay young forever, and Sam will grow old. Like, I guess ideally he will change her into a wolf too at some point. I don't know. The thread is not resolved and it's left hanging, and it implies that like she wouldn't want to be a wolf, so he's not gonna change her, and that's, I don't know. That is not a happily ever after for me. Another thing that rubbed me the wrong way in the long line of things that rubbed me the wrong way was how they established that there were dominant and submissive wolves within the pack dynamic. Because Linda was a more submissive wolf, she should have listened to her husband no matter what. This is never addressed by anyone at any other point throughout the book. So is Caleb gonna assume that like Caleb's gonna be the more dominant wolf because he's the alpha? So is he gonna force Sam to do whatever he wants just because he's the more dominant wolf? Like he's just gonna tell her what to do and she's gonna have to do it? Like, I guess she's not a wolf, so it doesn't really matter, but I don't know. It got mentioned in that one moment and never brought up again. It felt so needless. Like there was no point in that. It was dropped like so casually in the middle, like right at the end of the book. It just seemed like that was the expected natural way for things to be. His wife was more submissive, so obviously she would do whatever the husband said she should do. Something Something else that I noticed throughout the book was quite a number of typos and syntax errors. I'm usually not like a stickler for that kind of thing, so if I am noticing that a book is laden with typos and errors, there is definitely some kind of problem. I noticed at least 2 typos on my own. There were multiple sentences where the grammar was poor, made it difficult to read. For example, not only did they have that typo that I mentioned where it was like, and she might, but instead of that it said, and she right. It also like that started a new paragraph, and she right started the new paragraph, so a new paragraph started on and I was always told that that was wrong, but that's a trend that I noticed happening throughout the book. She continued to start paragraphs with and, which I don't know, maybe that's a thing that people are allowed to do now, but when I was in school that was not something we could do. In the final act of the book, oh my god, here we go, this was my least favorite part. In the final act of the book, there is a long sequence where it switches back and forth between Sam and Caleb's point of views repeatedly throughout each chapter. Sometimes it was as little as 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs, it would flip back and forth between them. I am not exaggerating with those point of view switches, like that was how the entire thing was written out. It would do a couple paragraphs from Caleb, and then shift back to Sam for 3 paragraphs, and then it would shift back to Caleb, and it was exhausting. It was clear that the author was trying to do some kind of like super cinematic story style where it cuts from one person to the other in an action sequence and it's cool, 2 scenes at once. But reading it like this was just exhausting and more frustrating than like it was exciting. Like I did not care about either story because I felt like I was only ever getting half of it at a time. It felt like 15% of the way into this book, Sam just seemed to give up on all of her brain cells, even though she established in the opening, like, she had a crack shot, she was strong and independent, she was looking for this werewolf man who was supposed to help her. She just immediately gives all of that up, and just in an instant. And it becomes about her moving from situation to situation, which requires her to just be saved by Caleb. The only time she has anything of a spine is when she turns righteous and demands that Caleb eat vegan. That's the only time she has any kind of spine, is when she's being a bitch. Everything felt like it was set up to just make Caleb like a super cool action hero, and she fell right into this damsel role. And Sam starts the book by shooting zombies, and then she seems to forget that, and then just can't deal with she can't deal with being attacked by one zombie at the truck stop, or she couldn't deal with, she couldn't even do Allison Zombie, one final favor as her best friend and put her out of her misery. She couldn't do it. At best, she cut Anita with a silver knife, and that automatically made her, the de facto alpha of the pack for, 5 minutes, I guess. That's, I don't know. Sam didn't accomplish anything in this entire book, and the relationship between Caleb and Sam felt superficial at best. The relationship between Caleb and Sam felt superficial at best. There was no chemistry at all between them. The book took place between 2 days, and the relationship was just cookie cutter, and there was nothing that brought them together aside from whatever supernatural draw Caleb had towards Sam, and Sam just simply needing a hero for every time she got caught by a zombie or a villain. It is no surprise that I will be giving this book a 1 star out of 5 stars. It may be my least favorite book so far. Maybe I'm just feeling more disappointed because I was really hoping for this one. Like, this, you were the chosen one, and you let me down. I hoped it would be fun. It was not. I just ended up being really upset. So for the spiciness rating, I don't know. They had sex, but it wasn't particularly interesting. The book spent more time building up to the act than the actual act itself. They kept trying to do it in like weird moments, like where they were fighting and arguing in the car, or like it I don't know. It didn't really work, I guess, but it was there. So like, I don't know, too spicy on account of it was there. I don't know. So the tropes that I could think of for this book, these were a little bit easier to come up with, at least better than the last ones anyway. The tropes I could think of were, it was a road trip, so they were doing like an adventure road trip. This could have been more fun than it was, but there was an attempt. They did do a whole road trip, I guess, but like the close proximity definitely could have been played a bit more. Like maybe have them have some kind of conflict on the road, could let them deepen their bond, build a bit more chemistry, and maybe like make the relationship last more than 2 days before you get into the big climax of the story. I don't know. Make it an actual road trip. Another trope would be dead parents. Caleb's family's been murdered by zombies. Now he's a zombie hunter. Fated mates is a trope, but it's been implied. There's no follow through there. It also kind of has like a grumpy sunshine slash opposites attract trope going on. This could have been better, but they did have like a grumpy sunshine thing happening. Caleb was grumpy and violent. Sam is literally trying to save everyone to the point of just being an annoyance, and they just felt like cardboard cutouts of the tropes basically. And then like the final trope, I guess, like the alpha action hero, obviously Caleb. So, in conclusion, this book was a bummer. I went in with high hopes and I was hoping it was going to be a fun time. I'm not expecting anything like super spectacular when I'm reading these books off the shelf, the Harlequin shelf. Given how Harlequin is printing like 2 books per series per month, they're printing I don't even know, hundreds, 100 books a year basically. So many books. I feel like it's more of a buckshot approach to publishing rather than something that might be more tightly curated. Out of the 3 that I've read so far, I've had 1 mid book and then 2 books that really annoyed me. So, obviously, Second Chance of the Rebel, top tier out of the ones that I've read so far, and then I would give it to Moon over Montana, and then right at the bottom, Zombie Moon. I could see why somebody else might like these books. Maybe they won't have a problem with these things that I did. They're just not for me. That's completely fair. If these are the kind of books for you, live your best life. Enjoy them. My opinion doesn't matter. I am going to actually handpick another book out of the pile this week in the hopes that I can find something that I'm going to like. I've actually been contemplating the idea of reading 3 Harlequin books and then reading 1 book that's just off my regular bookshelf, like my actual to be read pile. Like, I'll read 3 books off the Harlequin shelf and then 1 regular ass book. Like right now I'm actually reading Bridgerton, the Viscount Who Loved Me, so the second Bridgerton book. Like, that's just what I'm reading in my spare time when I'm not reading books for this series or doing live streams and stuff like that. So I was thinking, not this time, but maybe next time I will do 3 Harlequins and then pick my own book. If that's it, I mean, if that sounds alright anyway. Let me know in the comments, like, if you'd be okay with that, or if you'd rather I kept them separate. Like, it's not set in stone. However, the next book is actually a Harlequin romance on my Harlequin shelf, but it's also a book that's been on my to be read pile. So it's gonna be 2 birds in 1 stone. So this one hopefully will not upset me. I am gonna be reading Butterfly Swords by Jeannie Lin, which is a Harlequin historical set in the Tang Dynasty. It's actually, so it's a Chinese historical romance. So during China's infamous Tang Dynasty, time awash with luxury yet littered with deadly intrigues, and fallen royalty, betrayed Prince Ai Li flees before her wedding. Miles from home, with only her delicate butterfly swords for defense, she enlists the reluctant protection of a blue-eyed warrior. Battle-scarred, embittered Ryam has always held his own life at cheap value. Ai Li's innocent trust in him and honorable stubborn nature make him desperate to protect her, which means not seducing the first woman that he's ever truly wanted. So, yeah, that'll be my next one. And I think that's all for today. As usual, let me know in the comments if there's anything you want to see, or if you have any thoughts on me, you know, picking a book off my to be read instead of out of the Harlequin books. If you want to keep up with my book review series, make sure you like and subscribe, yada yada yada. Leave a comment, all the interactions, all of the everything helps with visibility, so I'd really appreciate it if you could like take 2 seconds, leave a comment, leave a like, whatever, you know. And yeah, if you want more, subscribe. You can find a link in the description to my Linktree where you'll find my Discord, my Twitch channel. I stream live 4 nights a week. We play games. We chat in the Discord. I have like a book section if you want to talk about books. That's about it. All right. Thank you for hanging out. We'll see you again soon.